Hello, welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I really wish for more wishes.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss Wishmaster, which came out in 1997. Written by Peter Atkins, directed by Robert Kurtzman, and executive produced by Wes Craven. Iain, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows a woman called Alexandra, played by Tammy, who has just come across a really expensive jewel. While working with the jewel, she accidentally awakens the Wishmaster inside, also known as the Jinn. The Jinn has now entered into our world and is going around granting people's wishes so that he can charge the jewel with their souls. He can breach the barriers between our world and his.
Tell them there is something loose in their city. Something which feeds on wishes.
This film, when you look at it, is almost kind of like a who's who of horror.
yeah.
Like I said, you got Peter Atkins who wrote this film. Yeah, I remember him. He was the writer for Hellraiser 2, Hellraiser 3,
wow, yeah.
and Hellraiser 4.
Not too bad.
But you know, he also directed some of the Hellraiser films. You know, he was the barman in Hellraiser 3.
Oh yeah.
Directed by Robert Kurtzman. You know, he's not directed many films, but he is a special effects extraordinaire.
Yes, and not to be confused with Robert Kirkman, like I got.
No, it's not Robert Kirkman.
No, I know.
But you know, this guy was on Evil Dead 2.
Yep.
Phantasm 2.
Yeah, he wrote the story for From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yes.
And helped to do the special effects for it as well. You know, he was involved in John Carpenter's Body Bags.
Right.
You know, he worked with John Carpenter on a lot of his projects. And he also did Little Nicky.
Well, I will say that at least the special effects in Little Nicky were pretty damn good.
Yes, yeah. I mean, this guy. I mean, we do say this a couple of times. We always get worried about a special effects artist
directing a film.
You know, and but then you look at some of their history, especially like with this guy Robert Kurtzman, and I was like, oh my god, this guy has been involved in some of my personal favorites and probably some of the greatest movies that involve special effects of our time.
Well, as it turns out, the group that made this film, they wanted to make it. You know, it was kind of not like a passion project, but it was like, you know, they've got this idea, we want to make it, and the studio was like, yeah, okay, then you got 6 months. In 6 months, this film is in the cinema, so it has to be in the bag. So off you go. And they went out and they pulled in all the resources they could to make Wishmaster, and they got it out with in cinemas within the 6 months.
Wow.
And, you know, even though they rushed into production, by all accounts, they had an absolute blast making this film.
Yeah.
And you know, it's amazing to see how many celebrities they make cameos in the film.
Yeah.
You know, we have Robert Englund.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's going to remember Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. We've got a cameo appearance from Kane Hodder.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of the Friday the 13th, you know, Jason.
Jason
Voorhees.
Yeah.
Tony Todd. You know, he's the Candyman.
He's the Candyman, yeah.
Absolutely fantastic.
Night of the Living Dead remake as well.
Yes, of course. We've got Ted Raimi.
Yes.
You know, Sam Raimi's brother.
Fucking can't go wrong with Ted Raimi. You got Tom Savini popping up as well. We got Buck Flowers, who worked with obviously John Carpenter. You got Reggie Bannister fucking turning up.
You got Angus Scrimm doing the narration at the beginning.
Yeah.
You've even got a small cameo by Joe Pilato from Day of the Dead.
Yeah. Well, he's actually a really important role. Very important role. But I remember when this film came out, and at the time, it was 97. Horror was borderline boredom for me at this point. You know, I'd gone through everything that there was to know and watch, and you know, maybe I desensitized myself a little bit too quickly. That it was just like, it's nothing. But I liked the idea behind the Wishmaster. You know, it was one of the. I'm trying to remember another horror movie that takes something as cute and cuddly like a genie and turns it into something horrendous. You know, at this time, like, we were still coming off the back of Aladdin. So when you mention genies to people, they imagine them blue and voiced by Robin Williams.
Yeah.
You didn't imagine some fucking tentacled thing granting you your every wish, but flipping on you. It's like the monkey paw tale all over again.
Absolutely, yeah.
And ever since I saw this film, I've always been fascinated as well with the Cave of the Jinn.
Right.
Which is in, I think it's in the Middle East somewhere. I had it written down, but my handwriting's terrible. And it's a giant cave with this one bit of light that comes through. And everyone calls it the Cave of the Jinn. And I'm like, I'm not going there. Ever. Because I see what these things are.
Well, the film opens in Persia.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, the Jinn is throwing a massive party and just granting him these wishes.
Well, yeah. The Sikh, it's like Arabian Nights all over again.
Yes, yeah. And it's just a massacre. There's skeletons pulling themselves out of their bodies.
Oh, God, that's great
There's a
big.
creature hanging out of a guy's stomach that's tearing off a woman's arm.
Yeah, there's a snake man thing. And it's all because, you know, the king asked to see wonders. And so the Jinn's like, okay, I'm gonna mutate all of your people. And it all builds up to the fact that if you were the one that awoken the Jinn, he grants you 3 wishes. On the completion of your 3rd wish, it will open the barriers between our world and where the Jinn come from. And we were explained to by Angus Scrimm at the beginning that God blew life into the universe, and the light gave birth to angels, and the earth gave birth to humans, and the fire gave birth to the Jinn. And so they are the devil, basically. They're the demons. And so I like that little concept. It's like, we're not making it too extravagant, but we're not making it too simple. This is your creature. It comes from another world, and we need to obviously avoid that. So when you have that sorcerer, the wizard, I suppose, he comes in and he's created this jewel. It's like, that's where like the legend comes from for the lamp.
Yes, yeah.
This is going to contain the creature.
You're going to seal the creature in the jewel. And he casts kind of a spell, you know, mutters some phrases, and the Jinn gets trapped in the crystal. And then we cut to present day. And, you know, we're at a dock where a crane is moving this, you know, giant crate. You know, Robert Englund and Raimi have turned up to collect the artifact that's inside. But Joe Palatio, you know, went out on a bit of a bender the night before.
Oh, he's still on a bender.
He's still on a bender. This kind of fuddles his controls, and he kills Ted Raimi. He drops it on his head. It's like, oh, well, that was a brief cameo, but all the same.
Yeah. And you can't go wrong with a Ted Raimi death in a movie, you know.
So we've got one drunken operator.
Yeah.
The other dock worker goes, oh, look, this crystal just fell out of the, out of the case. I'll take that.
I'll just take that. Yeah.
Takes it to a pawn shop, sells it. We follow this guy who brings the gem into an antique kind of...
Yeah, it's like I suppose it's like a posh end pawn shop, really.
Pretty much, yeah.
They deal with antiquities and ancient jewels and stuff, and they make a lot of money. And Alexandra Amberson works for this company, and she's tasked with looking over this jewel. Now, I got a couple of problems with Wishmaster, which I'll come to as the review goes along. And one of the first issues is Tammy Lauren.
The lead actress. She's kind of okay.
Yeah.
But then there are moments where it's so hammy or so overacted that I just kind of laugh at it a little bit.
Yeah, I always thought she was okay, but the issues I've always had with, and this was even going back to the very first time I watched this film, being so expertise with horror movies, I knew immediately, like when you see her playing tennis at the beginning with her best friend, that I'm like, this is your lead girl.
Yeah.
And horror movies up to this point have told me that the lead girl does not die. She survives all the way to the end and beats the bad guy. So I'm like, okay,
But how?
Yeah, no, I like the how, and the how is really, really good in Wishmaster. It's just, I felt like Tammy Lauren was like a cheap Laurie Strode.
I don't know.
Especially with all of her screaming she does through the film. That's another point I don't like about this film, is her fucking screaming.
That's because the film is filled with annoying jump scares.
Yeah, but not just
to make her scream at nothing.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, it connects with the Jinn, but yeah, I'll get to it, but it's always like that. I'm like, shut the fuck up, bitch. Anyway, sorry.
What?
She and her friend Josh, Josh fancies her, but she doesn't want to ruin the friendship.
She friend zones him.
She friend zones him, and that's why another reason why I'm like, you bitch. You know, he's throwing himself at you. She's having all these terrible dates, and yet she's got this really great guy. I've been in that friend zone before. Yeah. You know, if you have a friend in a friend zone, get him the fuck out of there. Because every other person you're going out with is not working. And this goes to you guys too.
It's the same thing though, but if they go out on a date and it doesn't go very well, then she's like, well, I've got no friends anymore.
But that's a selfish attitude. These two have gone out many times, and they've always had fun. Just because they aren't having sex, they don't have to have sex at the end of the date, do they?
She just doesn't seem that interested in him anyway. So
no, suppose she's very. Her character, Tammy, Alexandra's character is very enclosed, isn't it? We're led to understand that her family died in a fire.
Yeah.
She was only able to rescue her sister, so she's very protective over her sister. But we don't really know anything else more about her life. We're just kind of supposed to follow the fact that she's the virginal last girl, basically, isn't she?
Yeah.
And she gets given this jewel by her boss, Nick, played by Chris Lemmon, he's a bit of a funny dick. I do like him. I do like, you know, he's not a massive dick, but he's
a one-dimensional character.
Oh yeah, totally. And she gets the jewel, and she's analysing it, and she realises that there appears to be something on it.
Well, she does the traditional kind of rubbing it, and I'm just like, oh, rub the crystal, that's release the gin,
that's cool. And that awakens the gin inside, which immediately makes them connected. And so now Alexandra is the only one who can do the 3 wishes, even though the gin will come across loads of people throughout the film. She's his main target. And she ends up giving the jewel to Josh, who's a computer analyst at university, and he starts to scan it. Now, this is the start of the problems I have with the Tammy character, because of her connection to the gin. When the crystal explodes and injures Josh and the gin escapes, he asks Josh, who's heavily injured at this point, if he would like to be relieved of his suffering, because the gin cannot harm anybody unless you actually ask for it. And so Josh says, yes, I'd like the pain to end.
Yeah.
And the gin kind of absorbs his soul or his life force.
It just kind of looks like he just intensifies that pain.
Yeah.
before Josh dies. And I think that gives, then the Wishmaster takes his soul, and he needs a bunch of souls in order to power himself up.
Yeah.
To be able to, I don't know, also be able to call forth and break the barriers to bring the gins through.
But through his connection to Alexandra, she feels the death of Josh.
Yeah.
And so she immediately starts going through this screaming fit in public,
which
is going to happen a lot with the amount of people that the gin kills.
Did you, just a bit of trivia for you.
Yeah, I was about to do the same actually, but carry on. Yeah.
The actor in the Wishmaster suit.
Vern Troyer.
It's Mini-Me.
It's Mini-Me. He looked awesome.
Very good.
He did look awesome.
It almost looked like a H.R. Geiger kind of monster from...
And I love the fact that we have Andrew Divoff playing the gin, and obviously we will see him in his human form later on, but his voice has, like, Robert Englund's voice works with Freddy, you know, and
Doug Bradley's for Pinhead.
Yeah, I was going to say somebody for Michael Myers, but no, that don't work. But with Stephen Divoff, his deep graininess, I mean, I try to do it every now and I try to mimic, like, make your wishes, but it really grates the back of your throat.
His voice has been altered, you know, through sound effects.
But the
base of it is there.
It's still there, and you can twinge it and stuff like that. But when he's in the gin costume himself, it's really evil-like. But when he's in his human form, you can just hear the hint of the gin behind him that you're like, I can't look at him for that long.
Yeah.
Then the death of your enemy you would consider a bargain.
You really are fucked up, you know that?
I have to point out, I love how in old films, civilians can just run into crime scenes. And I point this out because as it's 1997, Alex has rushed all the way to the university to check in on Josh. And the police are obviously dealing with a murder scene, which they haven't taped off or stopped anybody from coming in, you know, and she just runs in and ruins all the evidence. And the cops are like, whoa, calm down there. And I'm like,
Did you recognise the lieutenant?
No, who is it?
That is Rico Ross playing Lieutenant Nathanson.
Right, I know that name.
That's Frost from Aliens.
Oh, shit! Oh, my God! Man, do you know why I didn't recognise him? Because he wasn't carrying the bag.
Right, yeah. We're supposed to use harsh language.
Thanks, Sarge. I did not recognise him. But I was hoping the cop was going to be a more
prominent character.
Yeah, because they've just killed off her best friend boyfriend.
Yeah.
You know, and the cop is investigating this murder. But then he doesn't actually turn up again until the djinn
comes to him, yeah.
That's it.
Because the djinn has now escaped and he goes to the morgue because kind of wants to find a face.
Well, he goes to the pharmacy first, doesn't he? He passes a pharmacy which has Buck flowers outside. And Buck is just being given shit by Reggie Bannister. And Buck says to the djinn, you know, I want that guy to die of cancer. And so the djinn just grants it. And so Reggie Bannister is just overwhelmed with intense fucking cancer.
Yeah, it is. It's quite horrible actually to look at. He's like, geez, that's disgusting. But, you know, I just can't imagine. I'm just like, what the hell was the Wishmaster? What was the djinn doing? He's like, I'm going to choose this alleyway. I'm just going to sit here and stand around.
Yeah, but
just wait for a bum to come by. Like, really? That's what he was. That was the plan.
Well, I mean, in this being my fifth or sixth viewing of it, this was probably the first time I actually ever really considered the djinn being a god on the earth.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because he has an unmeasurable power. He can pretty much do anything as long as you ask for it.
Yeah.
And yet he's in a world where there is no spells and sorceries and it's all reason and we all just kind of...
Yeah. But the thing is, he is limited by the fact that he can only grant 3 wishes to the one that summoned him.
Yeah, yeah.
And he can only... I mean, is he limited? Can he grant as many wishes as he wants to these other people?
Yeah, well...
Because he only needs to cast 1 wish for them to take their souls.
Yeah, well, yeah, he only has to grant them something. I mean, they don't even have to say, I wish.
No.
They
just need to want something in his presence. They need to want
something, and he is bound to grant it to them. And the moment he grants it to them, they owe their soul to them.
Yeah.
And he tells them that. What would you give? Would you give your soul? And they're like, yeah, right, whatever. Because they don't believe it. And as the film carries on, the more people he comes into, the more daring he becomes. He's... Like I said, he's hiding in the alleyway at the beginning. But then after he's gone to the morgue, he's fucking walking around in a suit and tie. Like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, he goes to the morgue. He takes the face of Andrew Divoff.
He says to that guy, doesn't he? He says, I'm guessing this is something you don't want to see. And the guy's like, yeah. So he blinds him.
Yeah. But that also means he can take his soul as well.
Take his soul as well.
Blind him, then I'll take your soul. That's the thing with the djinn. It's like he'll take your wish and manipulate it so that you suffer and he gets your soul.
Yeah.
So it's like the worst genie ever.
I mean, yeah, but it's like I also want to know like is the djinn like the most powerful genie from his world? Like, or is he just another? Are they all djinn. Like it?
Well,
you know, and he's the only one that got saved.
In Wishmaster 3, it's a different djinn, and in Wishmaster 4, it's a different djinn again.
Yeah, I wasn't going to the sequels just yet,
but they all have the same kind of powers, except this djinn has more special effects around him.
yeah, more budget.
A better budget, yeah. So he does go to get a shirt and tie, a brand new suit. You know, the assistant's flirting with him.
Yeah.
And he starts talking to her about beauty, and he's just like, "Go on, just wish to be beautiful forever. Go on."
Yeah.
And so she does, and it's quite horrifying.
Oh god,
she turns into a mannequin.
It's scary as well because you can see her eyes are still live.
Yeah.
Everything else looks fake and plastic, but her eyes are still going, and I'm like, oh my god, she's still in there.
Yeah.
You know, she's still gonna be in there. What a bastard. And he would. And this is what I mean about Andrew Divoff. He's so charismatic.
He's having fun, isn't he?
He is. His conversational pieces he has with people throughout the film really elevate it for me. Because it's like he is now looking into investigating Alexandra and he needs her information. He's attached to her psychically.
Yeah.
And he can kind of sense her. He can smell her fear, I suppose. But he still needs her address. And so... he goes to the police station. He meets up with Frost. He grants Frost a wish that the criminal that they've got would do something that would end up within death. That criminal fucks people up. He kills like 3 cops, rips a guy's fucking jaw off. You know,
it takes like 8 rounds or so.
Yeah.
And you're still like,
it's like the fucking Hidden all over again.
Yeah.
You know, and this is all for the djinn to be able to find Alex's card so he can go to her workplace.
Yeah.
And then when he gets to the workplace, he comes across Kane Hodder. And what I really like are these little bits where they're not smart enough to know that there's something going on, but they're smart enough to watch their words carefully. So like Kane Hodder doesn't really wish for anything until the djinn starts to walk away because he wishes him away.
Now this is a problem.
Right, yeah.
Because he wishes the genie to go.
Yeah.
And so that's it. The genie is forced to leave.
The djinn is forced to leave, yes.
But he's granting him his wish.
Yes.
So why does he not be able to take his soul?
Well, because like
Plot
I said,
hole?
well, no, he only needs the souls to power up the jewel.
Yeah.
And he needs a certain number of souls to power up the jewel. So it's not until later on that we see him actually finally power up once he's got
enough souls.
souls. But there are people he's willing on just killing.
Yeah.
You know, to get what he wants. And so it's like I saw the frustration on the djinn's face when he was when he was wished to leave, because yes, he has to do that.
Yeah.
And yes, he is going to get this guy's soul, but he needs to get in there. That's what's frustrating him. He needs Alexandra's information. Even if he has everybody's soul in this jewel, he can't do anything with it until he gets her.
Yeah, that's his weakness, his limitation. But it's like, but now it grants him a second wish.
Well, yeah, that's the djinn, though, isn't it? He says to him. The djinn says, "No, I need to get in there," and Kane Hodder says, "Well, that's something I'd
love to see you do.
I wish to see, love to see you do." And so I suppose it immediately breaks the first wish, because now the djinn has to grant this wish to walk through him, but at the same time he doesn't take his soul. He kills this man
in one of the worst CGI effects ever put to film.
Yeah.
That was utterly terrible.
Now, I'll agree with this, because this is my second fault with this film, is I hate the CGI special effects that they do regarding like the boundaries between the djinn world and, you know, the exploding of the glass. All of the prosthetic effects borderline looking silly, but I'm invested in them because it's a horror movie. I'm like, yeah, okay, that guy's
it's
blind.
practical. It was there.
It's practical. So it works.
You could tell the difference. The CGI effects look monstrous of their own.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, I suppose for the time they were
the way
trying
it shatters
something new.
across the screen.
I like him standing in the doorway.
Yeah, because it's kind of looks strange and weird.
But then him walking through the door and then it exploding, I'm like, all right, play on the, you know, I'd like to see you walk through me kind of motif.
Yeah.
But then it gets even more sillier when the djinn gets in to see Nick, the boss, and he's trying to convince Nick to give him information. And Nick is not the smartest man, but he's keeping the djinn at bay with their gift of the gab, I suppose they both have. But it's when Nick says, "Oh, if you can get me $1 million, I'll give you the information." And then it cuts to his mum getting on an airplane and signing her son as a beneficiary, and then the plane exploding and her granting him $1 million. I'm like, what, Jin? Come on, fuck off! Why don't you just give him a briefcase?
Right.
The woman in the store, you had money appear from her tits.
But it's the djinn. That's the way you make a wish. He has to bend it and change it.
Oh,
at first time watching, I didn't even realise it was his mum. I was like, maybe the djinn's just gone, right, that poor sap's got $1 million, let's blow that and just kill a random person.
Yeah. It could have been that, because that's how it was kind of placed in.
Yeah, I thought it was like, the butterfly effect.
Yeah. But for all of these things happening, we're
but
dealt
doesn't he
with...
grant him 2 wishes as well? Because he gives him the $1 million, but he also turns the statue, changes the value of it, and fills it with diamonds.
Well, it's technically not a wish. I mean, I think he says, "Give me what would you want?" And Nick says he doesn't need anything, and there's the djinn who actually I think says, "I bet you'd wish this to be 10 times its worth."
Yeah, and he does that.
And Nick said, "Yeah, I wish to see
so
that."
So it's 2 wishes again.
Yeah.
Those are the only 2 plot hole points of contention I have with the film. And as we said, the sequels just completely disregard this because in one of the sequels, the Wishmaster, the Jinn needs 1,000 souls to power up.
Yeah,
the
isn't
thing.
there another one as well where he falls in love with the person who woke him, and so it's technically he's
the
in love with her?
Wishmaster the Prophecy is all about sex. You know,
Yeah.
the Jinn ends up taking the role of Anders, the actor from Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, right,
he's
yeah,
the
yeah.
Jinn in the fourth
Yeah,
one.
okay, yeah.
And he's learning about sex and love, and it's. Don't no.
Yeah.
So let's get back to
Let's
Wishmaster.
get back to Wishmaster 1. So the Wishmaster has gone around and he's fucking up a bunch of people to power up these souls. And at the same time, Alexandra is going around and she's seeking all of her information. She's met up with Beaumont, played by Robert Englund, and he's explained to her about how he was going to put this big statue in his statue room, and yet it was destroyed, and so it's a one of a kind.
Did you notice
Pazuzu in the background? Yes, I did. I noticed the demon in the background. I'm like, I know that motherfucker from somewhere. Where do I know that face? Yeah, absolutely love this film with all of those little tips in, you know, where if you're a horror fan, you are immediately looking in the background.
Yeah.
But she also gets given the information to go meet up with a college professor who explains to her the whole history of the Jinn, and explains to Alexandra that, you know, all of our legends about genies and cuteness and three wishes, it's all lies because the reality is much darker. And if this Jinn is alive, then it's literally going to be hell on earth, because he's going to be looking to open up the voids and bring in all the other Jinn. And I started to see it as like a Hellraiser motif now.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the Jinn is kind of like Cenobite, and he's coming from a world where they love to make things suffer. You know, they love to cause pain and torment.
They just kind of hate mankind entirely.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Whereas
they're the demons, aren't they?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and but they also feed on all that. They feed on the fear and the suffering. Like later on when we get to see the Jinn's world inside the crystal, the people he had, they're still there.
Yeah.
They're not dead. They're
Well, their souls are being tortured
Yeah.
internally. Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying, because the Jinn starts to follow Alexandra and finds out about the professor that she meets up with. So he kills her and powers up his stone and pulls everybody in, and we have to sit for an elongated period of Alexandra screaming her fucking head off. It's like you said, it was just hammy over.
Oh yeah.
You know, I'm like, I get it. You're fucking connected to him. If you're so fucking connected, why isn't he just here? Why didn't he just fucking turn up and force you to fucking make these wishes instead of this whole cat and mouse game? But she finally goes to this professor's house, and it's reminiscent of, say, the sequence from It with the old lady, where you kind of know that the woman you're talking to isn't really the woman because just the way she's acting.
Well, it's because we know the Jinn can also wear faces.
Oh yeah,
So-
yeah, and the Jinn reveals himself to Alex at that point,
Yeah.
and she says to him, right, okay.
Well, there's a nice little game where the Jinn is trying to make her,
Yeah.
make wishes. She's like, "Do you wish for a cup of tea?"
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
It's,
Do you wish me to make it warmer or colder? You know,
Yeah.
do you want some pillows?
They're trying to trick her into just doing it without even realizing,
Yeah.
which I thought was quite good. It's like the game the Jinn was
Yeah.
playing until he realized, like, she didn't want nothing.
The battle of wits,
Yeah.
it's just brilliant.
Are you hungry? I'm not hungry. I'm not thirsty. I'm not. Why do you keep trying to do things for me?
And it's the whole point where, like, he reveals his true form to her. And for somebody who obviously is confronted with the hideous form of a creature from another universe, she takes it quite well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Everybody else seems to have run in fear, but she's like, oh my god.
Spare me, child. Behold my true face.
Oh my God.
Yes. The shit just hit the fan, didn't it?
Well, she kind of knew it was coming. She kind of knew the Jinn was after her, but
but
actually seeing it, yeah.
Seeing it, I'd still jump out the window.
And so the Jinn starts making her to try and get her to make these 3 wishes.
Yeah, he gives her a free one and says, take one for free. And she said, blow your brains out. And he goes, all right.
It's my favourite part in the film, actually, where he does blow his brains out, and he's like, well, if it's any consolation, that hurt like hell. I was like, yeah, that's great.
But then she makes another wish to say about how she wants to know her enemy. And she's the head of a all-girl basketball team. So she teaches them about stillness.
Right.
Don't forget about stillness. I fucking hate that with coaches. I'm sorry, I'm just going to put that in. When a coach tells you in the middle of a fucking game or something to try to be calm. When
block everything else out.
Block everything out like go Matrix when 10 people are ready to fucking kill you for a ball. Fuck you. You get on here and do this shit. But the Jinn grants her the wish and takes her inside the jewel.
Yeah.
And what is she supposed to learn from this? Like, she learns, like, he tells her, like, I have been alive for centuries, I'm eternal, I'm going to murder you, I'm going to basically rip off your skull and butt fuck you for the rest of your life. So you best make these fucking wishes, or it's going to be the worst kind of time you're ever going to have. Paraphrasing there, obviously. And and she runs around what appears to be the inside of the Predator ship.
Right.
Or like the Cenobite Hellraiser world. I'm not entirely sure. It's just orange with smoke on the floor. But this dog thing is chasing her, and I'm like the Jinn says to her later on, like, I don't need you dead. I just need you to wish you were dead. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, so you trapped her here.
Yeah.
And put her in a terrible position because
you know she'll wish her way out of it.
Yeah, that was her first wish, to know you trap her in there, and her second wish is to get the fuck out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is sneaky. It's really sneaky. But now he's massively connected to her. Like,
yeah.
He can't leave her side.
No.
And she realizes her sister Shannon has gone to Beaumont's party. And so she goes to get her sister because they need to run. The Jinn are coming for her. Shannon's in trouble. And so when she gets to the party, we have the confrontation between Tony Todd and the Jinn.
I'm just like, yeah, Jinn, okay. You're up against the Candyman now.
Yeah.
You are not getting in this party.
You are not, yeah.
But, you know, he senses that this security guard, you know, doesn't just want to be a security guard his entire life.
Yeah, but why didn't he just write his name on the list?
Well, you can't just do that, can he?
No. But wait, no, he can. He can do anything.
Somebody has to wish it first.
He's the Jinn. Well, that's what I'm saying. Tony Todd would have said, "Is your name on the list?" And the Jinn could have, because I was thinking this while watching. The Jinn could have easily just turned around and said, "Do you wish my name on the list?" And very easy to say, "Well, I'm kind of hoping your name is on the list, so you're not getting in." Oh look, Nicholas, you're on the list. There you go. But I realised that at this point, the Jinn is loving the power and the control.
Oh yeah.
You know, he can do whatever he wants, but he wants people to suffer. Like, he doesn't need Tony Todd's soul for this point, because he's already powered up the jewel. He's just doing it because
he's having fun.
He's having fun. He loves killing people. And so when Tony Todd says, "Yeah, I'd like to escape," fucking
puts him in a box filled with water and a straitjacket and chains. It's like, yeah.
Houdini did it in 2 minutes. I'm like, oh, snappy one-liner.
That was great.
Yeah.
Houdini did it in 2.5 minutes.
The Jinn makes his way into the party and meets up with Freddy Krueger. And you must know by this point, even Freddy can't fucking stop him. And the Jinn says to him, like, last party I went to was talked about this for centuries. and Robert Englund's like, well, I'd love for that. I'd wish for a party like that. And so the Jinn's like, done.
And so the party really ensues.
Yeah. Woman gets turned into glass and explodes. Things start coming out of people. Things are touching. You know, it's reminiscent to the party that we were at the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, just everything is just going crazy. And Shannon and Alexandra are separated. And the Jinn knows that Alexandra can't go anywhere. Like, she is trapped. But there was something I always loved about this movie, was the way the ending comes. You know, like I said, being expertise in horror movies, you know, the killer finally catches up with the final girl. They have a bit of a scuffle. You know, he gets distracted by something. She stabs him in the back. Good guy turns up and shoots the killer. Now, we haven't got no good guys because the boyfriend's dead. The cop's dead. Everybody at this party is getting fucked up. Fucking Freddy Krueger's just vomited something onto a floor, so he is not helping. You know? You've just pulled in a bunch of security guards from outside, and some armoured statues have come to life and fucked those motherfuckers up.
So yeah, she is literally on her own.
Yeah.
And she now needs to use her smarts in order to defeat the Jinn.
Yeah. She's got one wish left. And obviously, her sister is stuck. She's dying.
That's another awful effect.
Yeah.
They were just like, we haven't got the budget to film this, so we're just going to have a painting of your sister. You're like,
I liked the painting at first with all the tentacles behind her. I was like, oh, that's a bit of an in the mouth of madness kind of thing.
Yeah.
I can imagine, looking into the eye, like he says, the trapped animal expression. I'm like, yeah, I can see that. When they add the fire, I'm like,
it's so bad.
So bad. She's not even actually dying. I'd like the whole picture to burst into flames. But it's at this point that while she's connecting into her stillness, and Alexandra is obviously facing all of her opponents at once, and namaste or whatever the fuck she's doing at this point.
It's either that or her life is flashing in front of her eyes.
Yeah. She's doing like an Inception thing and remembering all of the past information she's got about who killed who at the dock that day.
That's
and
right.
I've always loved this ending, is the fact that she wishes Joe Pilato was not drinking that day that he dropped the crate. And the djinn has to grant it. And so he reverses time and changes it, which ends all the things that he's done over the last couple of days.
The thing is, though, I'm just like, so the djinn just goes, oh, that wish? I'll do it just as you asked. It's like, I'm not going to manipulate it so that Joe Pilato turned up, with a cocaine addiction that day instead, He didn't manipulate it so that...
No, because in a way, the djinn was so egotistical at this point. He was so powerful, he did not think about anything.
Because the moment the third wish has been granted, it's almost like you get given 3 wishes, but after the third wish, the world ends. It's just like, well... Whatever you wish for on that third wish, it's like you're not even going to get to enjoy it because it's over.
But that's the trick, isn't it?
Yeah.
When we saw it at the beginning with the original Prince, that his final wish was to wish for peace for all of his people.
Yeah.
So that this would all stop, which would have opened up the barriers. And so in a way, this is kind of what the djinn was hoping with Alexandra was. Yeah. But he didn't realise that she was actually a lot smarter than he gave her credit for, and she wishes it back. And all of a sudden, we are back in time. The everything has changed. Joe Pilato safely puts the crate down. Beaumont gets his statue. The jewel is still inside. Josh gets his date. Shannon is still going. Nick's mum's still going. All of the horror characters in the film are obviously not being killed. But it's like an Avengers fucking Endgame snap. It's like...
But the thing is, Alex still has all of her memories though of what happened.
Oh yeah, because it's not really time travel, is it?
Well, kind of is, but isn't.
Well, yeah,
I mean, it's an alternate timeline now.
Yeah, and she
remembers everything that happened.
But she's from a different timeline, so obviously she's going to remember it. That's how time travel works, dude.
And she's not phased at all by the horror she's just had. She's like, I'm just going to go and date this guy now.
Probably more experience. Probably more experience enough that she's probably going to contact Beaumont to make sure that nobody opens the statue.
Well, that's a shame because in the second one, the statue is now in a museum, and it gets, some robbers come in, and there's a shootout with security, and the statue gets broken, and the crystal comes out, and so on and so on.
Yeah, and in the third one, the djinn's working at fucking McDonald's, and he doesn't like his life anymore, so he takes up the mantle again. And then in the fourth one, he's a sex therapist. I'm not watching it.
It's not quite.
No, I know, but I watched the first one. I'm like, okay, that's good. And then I saw 2, 3, and 4 come out, and I'm like,
no.
Yeah, because when I was in the video shops, when we were looking at films, 2, 3, and 4 were up there with the Children of the Corn movies and the fucking Critters movies, and I was like, no, just no.
So, favourite scenes, Ian, from Wishmaster?
I have a few. A lot of them just involve the horror characters. Ted Raimi's death at the beginning. I always like Ted Raimi dying.
Yeah,
takes me all the way back to Darkman when his head comes out the sewer and he gets hit by the car. Or Evil Dead 2. It's just Ted Raimi, fucking Ted Raimi. I love it. I love the confrontation with Tony Todd, Kane Hodder, and Robert Englund. I love seeing Tom Savini in the background. I love seeing Reggie Bannister. I love seeing Buck Flowers. I love the djinn, his conversations with people, especially the long conversations. I mean, when he convinces somebody just to have a wish, like the woman in the shop, she was a very weak-willed kind of person, and he took advantage of that, and she paid the price. But it's like when he's going up against somebody like Nick or the security guard who they're trying to be smart, and he just has to just manipulate them just a little bit more, and then fucks them up. You know, Stephen Divoff, in his human form, I think he looks absolutely brilliant, because he's just, like I said, charismatic. As the Djinn, when it's close up of the face, I think it's okay, but wide shots, I think it's just a guy in a suit, so
Yeah.
it's a bit silly. But leading all the way up to, like I said, the final sequence, with his confrontation with Alexandra, and she makes that last wish. I really think that's just a cool little twist. To go, you didn't think we were going to do it that way, did you? And you go, Rhodes saved the day, yay!
Yeah. There are so many memorable death scenes in the film. There are some really good moments. I love the blow your brains out. That was a great moment. That hurt like hell. I love the practical effect of the guy ripping open his rib cage and the skeleton coming out of his skin and then going over and attacking somebody else. It's just like, I love skeletons.
Yeah.
Let's get the hell out of here.
And probably the second party massacre. You know, I thought the animated statues were actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
Even the ones that you could see the actors in, and you can see their eyes.
Yeah.
But the way that they moved and looked around, it was quite menacing, and the weight of the statues, especially when they were bludgeoning those security officers.
That guy gets his face fucking
Flattened.
smashed in. You know,
Yeah.
I it's like that last guy who gets attacked by, is it Jack the Ripper? Or
jumps out of the painting.
Jumps out of the painting and just starts cutting his throat. I'm like,
it's weird.
Yeah.
Weird and wonderful horror.
Yeah.
But for me, this film really is just a mixed bag. You know, I don't know. Did you notice the music?
It's a bit. Nothing major.
It was done by Harry Manfredini.
Okay.
He's the guy who wrote all the Friday the 13th music.
Oh, that's why there was a bit of a rock motif at the end.
Could be, yeah.
Because the other music, when the film starts up, or when you're watching the horror sequences, you know, you've kind of got this orchestral, you know, music behind it, kind of like you would get with Freddy when he's in the dream sequences. But then when the film ended, I was like, what are they going to put a song? And this rock song started up. I'm like, playing into the teens there, I see, you know, trying to get them to come back.
Yeah, but, you know, I just thought that at least the Friday the 13th music was iconic. It still is. You know, and this guy's written hundreds of music scores. I mean, he's mostly recognised for his work on Friday the 13th series.
Yeah.
Although I felt like the music in this was not as memorable.
No,
but there was, you know, during the jump scares, the sound that's used.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost the same in every horror movie, but for some reason this one just seemed a little bit more like Friday the 13th.
Yeah, I mean, there's one jump scare in the film that actually did kind of get me, because I wasn't expecting it, and that was the one where Nick was looking over her shoulder when she was looking at the jewel.
Okay.
And, you know, you had all the flashes of the Djinn, and you knew a jump scare was coming, and I was just like, the Djinn's going to be there? And she turned, it was Nick, and I was like, oh my god, he's fucking scared me. But the rest,
they're so annoying and awful, and this film has a jump scare every 5 minutes.
That's why I was
just to remind you you're in a horror movie.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm... Oh, God, I'm sorry.
I do half recommend this film. I do suggest watching this film if you're a fan of horror, but it's a mixed bag. You know, some really good practical effects and some awful, laughable CGI effects. Some okay acting across the board. But Andrew Divoff really delivers the Djinn role incredibly well.
Yeah.
There are some very cheap and annoying jump scares, but there are some very good gory kills and some humorous moments. The film is paced very well, and the cameos will keep you entertained throughout the film.
Yeah.
The music is decent, but it doesn't hold up to the horror greats. It's a fun film. It has an okay sequel. It has 2 terrible sequels, which I would avoid entirely. But this is a film that I would probably watch again. So, yeah.
I definitely recommend Wishmaster. I suppose I always have. I've never watched the sequels, and I never intend to.
The second one's fine.
Yeah, it's what you said about Critters 2. So
At least
what you said about Tekken 2, Kazura's Revenge. I'm seeing a pattern here.
Andrew Divoff returns in the second one, and he's in prison for most of it, granting wishes to prisoners. There's a lot of fun.
What? No! Fuck no! Fuck off! No! No! That's why you like it, because you like your prison shit. I'm not fucking watching it, alright? No! Don't watch Wishmaster 2, 3, or 4, because they are...
Watch Wishmaster 2 for the prisoner making the wish that his lawyer would go fuck himself.
What the fuck are you doing, man? What about my case, man?
That's why you watch a second one.
So you want to watch Gary wants to watch a guy fuck himself. Okay, right, back to what I was saying. I can't recommend the other ones because the first one seemed to be so unique for me. I've always enjoyed Wishmaster. I don't think it's one of the greatest horror movies ever made, but it certainly made a statement that allowed the Jinn to go up there with some of our greatest horror characters. I mean, you know, it made figures out of them and stuff like that, and sold it, and obviously made all the sequels. Andrew Divoff, his presence in the human form and his presence in the suit as well really makes the Jinn come alive, and you are scared of him, I suppose, in the film, because you're like, you don't want him to grant people's wishes, but you really want him to, because you want to see what he's going to do to the next person he comes up against. All the nods to all the horror characters are great. Kane Hodder, Tony Todd, Robert Englund, Tom Savini, fucking Reggie Bannister, fucking all of them are in there. And if you know them all, you'll love them. If you don't, then at least it will open up. You know, you'll be like, well, I've never seen Phantasm. Go and watch it. I've never seen Candyman. Go and watch it. I've never seen any of the fucking Dead movies with Captain Rhodes or Tom Savini. Go and fucking watch them. You know, with the Jinn, though, they had a really good concept, and some of the flaws in the movie, like we said, the CGI effects, the over the top emotional reactions from Alexandra's character was a bit, and the human side with her boyfriend and her sister and her family, I'm like, I don't fucking care. I just want you to face the Jinn. And then when she does face the Jinn and she defeats him, I'm like, I'm good. Because it ends so well with the Jinn sealed in his jewel, waiting for the next person to let him out.
Yeah.
And like with Gary, I could definitely watch this one again.
Careful what you wish for.
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
Yes, the shit just hit the fan, didn't it?